The third episode of the amazing digital Circus recently dropped, and after watching it, I couldn't help but develop an intriguing theory that might seem a little out there. But bear with me. What if Pomni is actually Kinger's daughter? Now, I know that at first glance it might sound far-fetched, and I can already hear some of my regular subscribers thinking, this is nonsense, but let me assure you, there's more to this theory than meets the eye. There's a logic to it, even if it's a bit unconventional. In this episode, Kinger displays a very peculiar behavior, one that is almost fatherly in nature. When Pomni's eyes literally popped out of their sockets, a pretty disturbing moment, Kinger was the one who rushed to her side, offering help. Meanwhile, the rest of the characters acted as though nothing important had happened, practically ignoring her distress. It could easily be written off as a coincidence, but the way Kinger reacted to Pomni's plight felt intentional. Why else would the creators emphasize his actions so much? This bond between them might be deeper than it appears on the surface, and it's possible that the show's creators are dropping hints, encouraging the audience to dig deeper and look for hidden layers of meaning. Let's dive into the backstory of the Baron. I'll refer to him as such since saying his full name every time is quite a challenge. Fans of the character will hopefully forgive me for this shortcut. His tale is a tragic one. He accidentally ended up killing his wife. As for Kinger's wife, all we know is that she dispersed and somehow found herself in the same digital space where Kinger now resides. But what if there's more to it than that? What if she dispersed as a result of Kinger's actions? This theory opens up the possibility of a more tragic backstory for Kinger, not just in the digital world, but in the real world as well. Imagine that Kinger and his wife had a family, a real life together, and something Kinger did might have led to his wife's disappearance or harm. What if they had a daughter who was also lost to them? Maybe, just maybe, Pomni ended up in the amazing digital Circus as part of her own journey to find her missing parents. This would explain not only the strange relationship between Pomni and Kinger, but also why Kinger consistently behaves in such a fatherly manner toward her throughout the episode. Take a closer look at the scene where Kinger is glowing, almost like a guardian angel, as he and Pomni make their way out of a hellish situation together. Sure, the narrative attributes this glow to how different characters react to holding their breath, but why did Kinger specifically get this glowing effect? His radiant aura could symbolize something much more profound than just a simple game mechanic. It's possible that Kinger's role in the story is not just as a digital character, but as someone far more significant in Pomni's life, her protector, perhaps even her guardian angel. Let's now revisit the Baron's hobby, hunting. It's been mentioned that hunting was a simple pastime for him, but over time it grew into an obsession. Many fans believe that Kinger, prior to his time in the digital world, was a system tester. If this is true, there's a strong possibility that he became obsessed with uncovering bugs and glitches in the system, much like the Baron became fixated on hunting. Remember Kinger's fascination with insects? The word bug in programming not only means an error, but also refers to insects, a detail that feels too deliberate to ignore. Kinger's obsession with bugs might have had disastrous consequences, not just for him, but for his family, and possibly the other characters trapped within the circus. So, while this theory might sound a little chaotic at first glance, it actually has a solid foundation when you start connecting the dots. It opens the door to a variety of potential storylines and forces us to rethink how the characters in this digital world might be connected to one another. I'd love to hear what you think about this theory, and if you've got any additional ideas or thoughts, please don't hesitate to share them in the comments. Now let's take a step back to the very beginning of the episode, where things seem pretty normal. But if you look closely, there are several fascinating details that are easy to overlook. For instance, in one scene, you can spot NGL in the background, drawing something. This might seem like a random moment at first, but later, Kane uses her notebook and pencil during a therapy session. This could be a subtle hint that there's a connection between these characters, or perhaps even that the act of drawing itself influences their mental or emotional state in some way. Another curious detail in this scene is the presence of a fire hydrant. It seems completely out of place, almost as if it doesn't belong in the environment and looks like a random prop. But what if it's actually a symbol or a hidden reference? When Kane explains the new quest, there's a brief moment where a terrifying, grotesque face appears on the Mildenhold mansion. This eerie image might be a nod to the animated movie Monster House. If you've seen that film, you'll likely recognize the similarity. I love how the creators play with these small, hidden references that pique the interest of eagle-eyed viewers. Another curious moment happens when Kane is describing the quest. A bubble says something that sounds like gibberish, but if you play the scene backward, you can hear a chilling phrase, "I'll wait until our young audience starts having nightmares because of the monster." This eerie message clearly suggests that the show is playing with some darker themes, ones that might affect how children perceive the content. Speaking of which, to my younger viewers, how are you holding up? Have you started having nightmares since the 3rd episode? If so, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about your experiences. Later in the episode, the circus gang enters the mansion, and Jax uses a vacuum cleaner to suck up the NPC ghost guide, who is also known as the Beaver Ghost. This is an obvious reference to Ghostbusters, where the characters use similar devices to capture spirits. The funny thing is, if Jax hadn't done this, the ghost would likely have helped Pomni and the king throughout the quest. This raises a few questions. Why did Jax do this? And where did he even get the vacuum cleaner from in the first place? It feels like there's another layer of humor or significance behind this moment that we're not yet fully understanding. Later in the episode, there's a photograph that shows what Mildenhold looked like before it became a ghost. What's interesting is that the monster in the image bears a striking resemblance to Ambush, a character from the game Doors. The similarities between the two are hard to ignore. Could this be another subtle reference? Or maybe it's a parallel that gives us further insight into the overarching story in Amazing Digital Circus. Another odd scene occurs when we see Jax tied up and floating in the air, which creates a surreal and somewhat comedic moment in the narrative. As the story unfolds, it's later revealed that Jax had attempted to use his vacuum cleaner to suck up the entire Mildenhold mansion, mirroring his earlier antics when he managed to trap the Beaver Ghost. This twist adds a layer of absurdity to the plot, showcasing Jax's reckless behavior and his quirky personality. Fortunately, Horned, another character in the mix, intervenes just in the nick of time. He quickly figures out what Jax was attempting to do, understanding the absurdity of the situation. With quick thinking and decisive action, Horned manages to tie Jax up, effectively putting a stop to his misguided plan. This intervention not only prevents any potential chaos from ensuing, but also highlights the dynamics of teamwork and the need for balance among the characters, especially when one of them, like Jax, tends to act impulsively. Finally, this episode sheds a lot more light on Kinger as a character than previous installments have done. We get to see much deeper aspects of his personality, including his vulnerabilities, strengths, and the complexities that define him. The narrative reveals his relationships with the other characters, providing insight into how he interacts with them and how they perceive him. This exploration into Kinger's character adds depth to the story, showing us not only who he is, but also what drives him. Additionally, we are presented with some hints about his inner turmoil and potential hidden motives that may influence his actions in the digital circus. As we delve deeper into his psyche, it's becoming increasingly clear that Kinger plays a pivotal role in the overall storyline. His actions are likely key to understanding the larger mysteries of the digital circus, making him a character to watch as the plot continues to unfold.